Okay. Hold on. What did I turn on my screen? Man, this shirt really brings out my titties, doesn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to say no. I mean, yeah. All right, y'all. Today is Wednesday, and you know what that means. We're doing another Meet the Streamer. Okay, today's Storytellermerc is coming back in hot and heavy. We got so much to discuss. We're going to hear the victories. We're going to hear the struggles. We're going to make new struggles that will turn into victories and push forward. So if you're ready, because I'm ready, check us out on Meet the Streamer. Holy shnikes, story. He even braided his face hair for us. Look at him go. Look at him go. Oh, man. Storytellermerc, welcome, brother. Welcome. Thank you so much for once again joining me. I am starting to enjoy these more than I ever thought was possible. But you know me. I love talking.
Yeah, good to be back, man. I've been looking forward to it.
Hell
Despite
yeah.
the ups and downs, it's like, yeah, Wednesday, we're getting there. It'll be
Yeah.
here.
Well, and that's kind of the whole point of scheduling things, right? Because during the days when we don't have the energy due to bullshit, right? We have an obligation. And I'll tell you, anybody who has any type of pride or self-respect, even if it's the lowest amount, if you make an obligation to somebody that you respect, somebody you care for, and you have a potential of letting somebody down, I promise you, you will find energy. You will find that power to do something, because ultimately you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your buddy.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man. Honestly, if it was anybody else, I'd probably been like, yo, I'm not doing today. I've been up 37 hours now.
Oh my
Sleep.
God. So
I was just like,
what
no.
brings on the sleeplessness? Is it a busy mind?
It's the ADHD, the anxiety and panic attacks. My brain just don't shut off. It just goes and goes, and I just think the negative. And I tried sleeping, and my brain just kept going. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, what's gonna happen tomorrow? Like, what can you expect? Like, running through all the scenarios in my head. Like, okay, and then when I wake up, like, what is the first thing I need to do? Like, oh, I gotta do this and that. And I'm just like, yep, I ain't sleeping. So I end up playing Ark and just kind of going through the steps today of what I need to do before stream.
Well, do you ever get all that shit out of your mind and write it down, put it somewhere that's not in your head to kind of organize your thoughts?
No, my doctor recommended it to me and my therapist when I was seeing him. And
now your Marcus is too.
I was like, I hate writing. I'm like, I could probably type it. I'm like, but I just kind of gotten so used to just kind of going through it and then figuring out ways to kind of get around it. And usually it's not bad. Usually, like, when I lay down at night, I'll think about, like, what games I played today or, like, what I'm going to do tomorrow and stuff, and I'm fine. But it was just, like, I'm getting ready for bed, and then, the knock on the door and dealing with that situation. And then, finding out another situation on top of that. And I'm like, okay, like, what is about to happen? So, like, I was going through my head, like, okay, last time this happened, like, am I about to miss out on another 2 months? Like, it's just
worst case scenario, man. It's because you got to go there. It's how we protect ourselves.
Yeah, I just started telling myself, like, worst case, like, even with the core stuff, I was like, I'm going to lose. It's coming. Like, that's 100% what's going to happen. So, I'm like, I'm ready. I'm prepared. Because I'm like, I don't want to psych myself like, yeah, it's going to go great. And then something happens, and I'm just like, because that's going to be worse.
So how do you get back to the middle? Right? So the extremes are bad. You can't be ignorant to the worst case scenario, but you also can't allow yourself to be destroyed, assuming the worst case scenario is the only scenario. It's like, what gets you centered? Just kind of the event happening?
I think, usually getting through the event usually helps, but, like, I've noticed a lot I think just because I've been through so much from growing up with being, like, the homeless and, like, trying to commit suicide and everything else that I've been through, like, that kind of put certain things in perspective. But then as I got older, dealing with 4 years of this now, I've come to realize, like, being miserable worrying about what other people think, like that, it doesn't help. It doesn't help anything.
It doesn't. It makes everything worse.
Why be miserable? So like, yeah, I'll, usually for like 2-3 days, depending on how bad the situation is and what's going on, I'll usually be kind of depressed, but then I kind of get myself out of it and I'm like, okay, I need to get back on track. Having the kiddo helps a lot. And that's more of a, I know she relies on me, so I can't let her see me like this. So like it forces me to, kind of push through and be like, yo, like you need to do this.
That kind of goes straight like to what we first said in the beginning, right? You said for anybody else, then thank you. I know I'm pretty, right? For anybody else, you would have said, hey, sorry, can't today. Because I get it. For me at least, don't let me speak for you, but for me at least, it's the energy. I have none. Like the act of putting a sock on is just ridiculous, right? So on those days, finding the motivation, you can say all the right words, think all the right things, but the act, like making yourself act, you might as well say is impossible. Was that appropriate?
Yeah, pretty much. Because like honestly, when I was sitting there last night and that happened, and I was just like, all right, I'm probably not sleeping tonight. I'm like, so what's gonna happen tomorrow? All right, I got to
wrote your own story. Yep.
Am I gonna be energetic? Like,
we love
is
you,
my anxiety
Fleek.
gonna be bad because I'm so stressed out and I'm not getting any sleep? Like, am I gonna be? Is this something I should do for Marcus and just reschedule because like it's gonna bring down what he's doing? And I'm like, I don't want to bring that upon Marcus because he really likes this. I'm like, I don't want to be all over the place and you're crying, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I can do it. I'm like, I'm gonna get through this. We'll be good. I'm like, if I need to afterwards, I'm gonna pass out. We'll be fine. But
yep. So at any point, did the thought into your mind that maybe Marcus wants to help me? So if I cancel on him, I'm actually doing something that hurts myself. At any point, did you think of yourself in any of this situation?
I think like when I finally decided like, with the whole like not wanting to cancel thing, it was more like, I don't want to upset Marcus. We have this scheduled. I don't want to cancel. But at the same time, it was like, just being here talking about different things will help take my mind off of it.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
Because that's one thing like, something, I want to say it was my brother or maybe it was an anime I watched, but somebody told me at one point, like, being alone with your thoughts is the absolute worst thing that you can do. And it's true. Like,
it's
even
true.
if we're just talking about the stupidest things, like, it takes my mind off of it and it helps.
Well, it's your worst enemy to be alone in your thoughts. Like, good thoughts, sure, but bad thoughts, the only place that you can go is the worst, darkest situation.
Yeah.
And that's
having the anxiety and panic attacks. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My mind always goes negative.
Yeah. So there's, in my mind, that's why I encourage talking so much. It's a huge message that we have in the community is get that shit out, get it off your chest, because it's probably way worse to you than it is to us. So let us help you be successful when you are struggling, right?
Yeah.
So why do you think we don't? Like you and I, we're talkers, but I mean, even for you and me, it's tough sometimes to reach out for help.
I think the main reason, and because I've seen this a lot on TikTok, and it is kind of like, I hate when I see this. It sounds terrible, but like, I don't think you probably watch TikTok much, but there was like this thing going around for a while of like ladies playing like, why don't you talk to people? And like, it's just guys in the background saying like, oh, well, when we grew up, like, you need to be strong. Like, you are the one who takes care of the family. Like, you're not allowed to be sad. Oh, well, you're depressed. You're not allowed to be depressed. And like, yeah, growing up, like, anytime I was sad or I'd get upset or show my feelings, like kids made fun of me. I got beat up for it. Like, you're a dude. So like we grew up in the whole, like, you're a guy, you don't get to have feelings. Don't talk about it. Keep it inside. You need to be strong for your family. To as I got older, like, I'm like, yeah, I can't. So like when my friends are telling me like I'm down, like I'm sad and stuff about that. And I'm like, or I can tell them like, hey, you want to talk about it? No, I don't want to talk about it. It's okay. I'm fine.
I'm good.
I'm like, no, you're not fine. I'm like, listen, do you want to end up like me? Because that's what's going to happen. And like, I joke about it because I'm like, it's the truth though. Like my anxiety, my panic attacks, basically my therapist told me like, it is because I never talked about my problems and I bundled all that stress up inside. And one day my brain just kind of snapped and couldn't handle it. And like, that's now my body's way of just dealing with it. Yeah. I have my anxiety and panic attacks to kind of burn that stress away and then I'm good.
So it's more of an explosion. Like a pressure release valve.
Yeah, and it's either before, and I never really thought about it until I started going to therapy, was I used to get really angry very easily. And that was part of it, was because I would just bundle everything up, and then eventually something would set me off. And it wouldn't necessarily be something super bad. It could be something stupid of just like, like, hey, we made plans and this is the first time they've ever canceled on me, and then I just snap and like I'm flipping out, and it's just like, yeah, I can't keep doing that.
Because then that pressure is that much. Like you're venting every single time any type of bump in the road happens. Luckily for me, I'm a super calm guy. I don't really understand anger at all. Luckily, I'm kidding, of course. No, the rage is real. Because I think anger and sadness are two of our body's easiest expressions to feel. Because they're the most extreme. Absolutely. So it can do the hard, like the wild swings of emotion to try to find understanding in a sea of crazy, crazy times. And for me, my depression is just autopilot mixed with feeling lost constantly. I do the day-to-day stuff. I wipe my own ass, all that good stuff. But anything that is on top of the daily requirements seems impossible. So it's like almost a protection measure of autopilot.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I get when I kind of get depressed. It's not so much that I feel lost. I start feeling like I'm just a burden to people, and like I shouldn't tell you how I feel because sometimes I vent a lot. And like my thing is I've learned like I need to open up. I need to tell people. And through some of the experiences through when I played World of Warcraft and like was in communities and like I'd open up and like be like, oh, I can't play this day because the situation with she who won't be named. And it got to the point where it's happened frequently, and they would just get to the point where they would snap and be like, oh, we're so sick of hearing about this, like just man up, like get over it, like we get you going through problems, everybody has problems. Like it got to the point where I just shut down. And I'm not going to talk about it. And I'm like, but not everybody's like that. And like, yeah, sometimes it does seem like it's one thing after another, but I'm like, if I took out, like, I mean, literally, if I turn my camera right now or just pulled out the paperwork that I have with just evidence and the binder and the folders, you'd be like, how does anybody deal with this? Like, how, like, because it's not like copies. It's literally just one incident so that I have to take pictures of and print out to cover myself.
Yeah.
And people would be like, how do you deal every day dealing with that much stress and that much drama? And I'm like, you just get used to it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you live in it. You live in it.
I'm like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it's the truth. Eventually, you become so numb, it doesn't faze you. You're just like, okay, cool. Here we go again. Like, I've been joking with my brother. I said, this is the 10th time now that I'm going to have to deal with CYS. I was like, do you think they'll give me a free ice cream coupon or something?
Yeah, like, 10th one's free.
Yeah, and my mom's like, that's not funny. And I'm like, no, I'm like, at this point, I'm like, when is enough? I'm like, I'm just so used to it. I'm not phased anymore. Like, I'm not really stressing about it. It's just more of like, I have to now. I'm like, I'm more worried about my daughter of constantly dealing with this. Like, what is it doing to her?
The interviews, constant interviews. So what do you think helped you switch from not talking about it to talking about it, right? Because, and just, for a quick second, a lot of people who have suicidal thoughts or depression, Fletch, kind of talking to you here, it's very hard to say that without feeling shame. I believe that's the hardest thing, is like, I wish I could tell you the truth, but if I do, I'm just going to hurt you and make you worry. And I don't want to do that to you. Like, does that seem appropriate? Like, what about it is so hard to ask for help?
I think because, like, with us, when we grew up in the age of, like, you don't talk about these things.
Yeah.
Like, for a week if you do and stuff. I feel like when I would be in relationships and I'd have issues, I wouldn't open up because I didn't want her thinking, like, oh, I'm with this guy. Like, he's supposed to protect me. He's supposed to be here for me. And now he's, like, weak. Like, he's not doing what he needs to do. And the biggest thing that really got me to change is I'm always very against, like, cheaters. I think they're despicable people. And with my ex, like me, I'm very helpful. I want to help people no matter what. And it got to the point where we were just in a toxic relationship. She got kicked out of her home. She had nowhere to go. She moved in with me. And the stipulation was like, as long as we're together, she has a place to live. And it got to the point where we were fighting all the time. My stress was getting really bad. and I started getting put down by it, and I ended up meeting someone who kind of really just kind of explained to me like how they deal with their stress and everything else, and like we connected, and then some stuff happened, and I ended up cheating on my ex, and I never said anything to her because I was like, if I tell her and we break up, she has nowhere to go. She's gonna live on the streets. So I kept it to myself. And when she found out and seeing how hurt she was, like, you know, I'm like, well, what the hell am I doing? I'm like, why didn't I just tell her, like, this is how I'm feeling? Like, why didn't I open up and just say, hey, like, this is hurtful. Like, I'm really sad. I'm upset. Like, what you're doing is putting me down. You're making me feel like crap. And instead, I went another route, and I should not have. And, like, I tried very hard after that to make sure I open up, and, like, yeah, it worked for a while, but then like it just got super toxic and we fell apart and everything.
Oh,
and, like,
yeah.
now it's constantly
the wound?
Yeah. And now it's like I'm constantly put down about my mental health and everything else, and she makes me feel like crap, and it's like, you know, I wish I was never with you, like nothing good out of it. And I'm like, you know, at one point you did love me. So like I know that's not necessarily true, and you're probably hurting, and I feel like that's a majority of what's going on now is that she doesn't open up about it because she was like me. She doesn't open up about her feelings. She doesn't talk to anybody. So I feel like she's stuck in a perpetual like I'm hurting, so I want you to hurt as much as I'm hurting. And like me realizing that, I'm like, I don't want to be that person ever.
Yeah.
I need to open up. I need to talk to people because I don't want anybody ever to feel like that again, to where I hurt somebody because I don't open up about my feelings. I don't ever want to see someone that hurt again. So that was a real eye opener.
I would argue now to kind of put a more global applicable understanding of it. It really sounds like you had a little bit of self-awareness on what the toxic behavior is, right? So you understand that you made a mistake, but from that mistake came the clarity of this isn't the right way to be, right? Like, I don't want to be this person. What the hell am I doing? I want to do better. So by gaining that understanding of your actions, it allowed you to, even though what you did was wrong, it allowed you to actually try to change and become a better person. Now, the falling out of the relationship, that's, you know, there's very little you can do about that. People fall out of love. That's just the ultimate truth. But what you do with it is so important, man, because if you take it to a bad place, your life's going to be bad, right? And it's that awareness. Like, I can't act like this or I'm a bad person. That's a hard thing to say to yourself.
It was, and it took me a little while to like, because I even talked to you about it at one point. I did go to a bad place for a while after all that happened because I was just so like done with everything, and I was like, you know, like I don't care. Like if I'm talking to someone and they have a boyfriend and they decide to cheat, like so be it. I don't even care. Like I'm done caring. I don't care. Like I don't care about anybody. I don't care about anything.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna do me, and I don't need to worry about how anybody else feels. And like after talking, I'm like, I don't understand why I feel this way. Like I'm not. And you were simply like, look, like you've been hurt so many times. Like you just at this point, you're kind of jaded to it, and you just don't like it doesn't bother you as much. I'm like, yeah, but that's not me. Like I need to get out of this place, and I did. And now I'm like, yeah, like I can't be doing this. I'm like, yes, in my opinion. Obviously everybody cheats usually for a reason. Sometimes there's not a good reason. Sometimes depending on the situation, you know, like abuse or something, they're afraid to leave. I get it. But I mean, I'm just like, you know, we're all adults. We all make our choices, but I don't want to be that person who's simply like, I don't think about it. Like, I'm just like, yeah, let's do this because I don't care. I'm like, you really need to put thought into it and, you know, think about how this is going to affect the other person and have that opening experience. Because I'll tell you what, when I tried killing myself when I was younger, I didn't think twice about how it would affect anybody else. I simply was hurting, and I was just like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, my mom's not around. I'm like, I'm being bullied all the time. I'm like, I don't have a lot of friends. I just moved to this new town. Like, it was, I'm like, I just want out. And now, like, looking back, I'm like, you know, like, what if I actually got, like, it happened? Like, it went the way it was supposed to. I'm like, obviously it didn't. I'm here for a reason. I wouldn't have my daughter. I wouldn't have streamed the tons of people I have. Wouldn't have you. Like, I have so many more friends and done so many things that, like, back then, I'm like, that's never going to happen. Like, I was counting. I'm like, I'll be amazed if I make it to 14. I'll be amazed if I make it to 15. I'm definitely not making it to 16.
Yeah.
And every year it was the same thing. And here I am, 32 years old, and, you know.
Well, and 32 years old and bringing happiness to people, right? Like, that's, you know. You look at all of the smiles you have generated, and I've only known you for like a year. Yeah. So in 1 year, you have just in my circle, my own personal experience with you, you have imparted happiness and joy to at least 7 people. And that's huge. Think about 7 people standing in front of you, thanking you at the same time for being a good person and making them happy. That's you.
Yeah.
You can, and that's the barest of all the minimums, right? Holly, you have absolute love surrounding most of, at least the parts that I see of your life. You just unfortunately have one very, very, very negative part.
Yes.
That is very powerful. Like, it's really hard to feel cold standing next to a giant fire. Even if the entire mountain is 0 degrees, that tiny fire will keep you warm. That is exactly the same as negativity. The smallest level of negativity can overshadow an entire life of joy.
Yeah, because even like when I was thinking yesterday, was it yesterday? It was either yesterday, no, day before yesterday, whatever day, I hit the 130 followers. Like, I'm like thinking, like how many people is that? I'm like, if you think how many people are in a classroom, like, how many people are following me right now?
Yeah.
But it's like all it took was a knock on my door at almost midnight, and then another situation on top of that within the span of 10 minutes. To like completely throw it out the window. And I'm just like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't want to stream this week. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to have to worry about it being ruined. I'm like, I streamed, everybody was happy. I'm like, I had how many people that day watching, and I'm like, and now I'm just like, don't bother me. Like, I don't want to be there because I don't have the energy. And I'm like, it's because
I want to think about that for a second. Why is that? What's the actual reason to not?
Right now, honestly, it is just the absolute fear of like, I don't want her watching this stuff and coming in and starting things. It's like, I could block her, but the damage is done. Because like for me, if I'm watching someone and somebody's coming in frequently causing problems, I'm like, I'm not here to really deal with that. I'm like, I don't want to be put in that drama. I'm out.
Okay.
I'm like, I'd rather not see it. And it's like, at the same time as well, like, I know I'm down in the dumps right now. I know I'm not at the same energy level I normally am. I'm not as happy as I am. And I'm like, I don't want to bring that kind of energy into my stream. Like, my streams, I want to be happy, a place that people come in and just can unwind and watch somebody being crazy.
And that's
like,
good.
I was in ARC the other day. I'm like, but if I'm down, I'm like, I don't want to be giving off to like, hey guys, today we're playing ARC. Like, we're going to do some stuff. And I'm not really talking. I'm not engaging. Like, that's going to bring everybody down. I'm like, and I don't want that. I'm like, so like, if I'm going to miss this week, it sucks, because I just came back. It was off to a good site. But at the same time, it's like, look, I'm going to be off this week. I'm going to be off next week. I'm going to get back on track. We'll come back that following week strong. So I know I can do what I got to do. And like, I even said to my brother, like, yes, I look at the negative. I may not see my daughter for possibly 2 months. But at the same time, I spun it into a positive. Like, all right, I'm not going to see her for 2 weeks or, 2 months possibly. But in that 2 month span, what else can I do in the meantime to make up for her not being here? Like, how can I make sure my life is meaningful while she's gone, to show like I didn't just sat here? I'm a stream like a lunatic.
Yeah. So
it's like, I need to make sure that when I'm streaming, I am in a positive vibe and mood to not bring other people down, because I'm like, Holly, she yesterday came in and was, super happy and excited. She's like, we missed you. And I'm just like, it blew my mind. I'm like, I'm not used to seeing that kind of crap. Like, I don't know you. I've never met you. I only see you in my stream for a little bit, and then you're lurking. I'm like, to have that kind of energy from someone, like, it means a lot. So I'm like, I need to get out of the funk. And like, my friend's coming, tomorrow and Friday. So that's part of the reason I'm not streaming. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe tomorrow.
And then Fletch, I did read that. I do want to touch on that. So don't worry. We got
Saturday,
we got a lot to talk about.
100% how I'm feeling. I'm going to stream. Screw it. Like, why let myself down? Like, I may not stick to my schedule right now. I might clear my schedule for this week and just say, like, I'm going to stream when I can. That way, like, I'm not 100% committed to it, but, like, you're not expecting me to stream a certain game. Because then it's, like, a little bit more of the pressure off. Like, I'm going to play what I want to play, so I know that at least I'm enjoying and I'm having fun, and I'm not sitting in a game that I may not necessarily stream. Because, like, I think tomorrow I'm supposed to stream Tarkov, and I'm like, I'm telling you right now, with the mood set I'm in right now, Tarkov is not a game that I should stream, because that's going to set me off real quick, and you're going to see an angry storyteller. And it's not because I'm actually angry, it's just because I'm frustrated. And I'm like, I don't want you guys to see that side of me.
Well, let me pump your brakes for a little bit. We got a lot to decompress here, right? So there's a couple sides to this, because it's, in my opinion, we have Your motivation is very high. Your want to protect yourself mentally is very high. And those two are kind of overlapping each other in ways that aren't conducive to you being the best version that the current situation allows you to be in. Right? So let me kind of shift your mindset a little bit. So the bad stuff happened, right? And you immediately decided, knowing based off of past instances that my energy is screwed. I'm going to not have the energy I want. I'm not going to put the show I want on. And ultimately, you care about the quality of your stream and you want to make sure that you're putting out good quality. But so now that's kind of where, again, there's a lot. So this is kind of the first step. So my question is, how do you gauge if your stream quality is what you want it to be? What metrics, how do you know if you had a good stream or not?
And that's the thing. I don't know.
Hey,
because like when I think about it, like, and I look back after streams and I think, did I have a good stream? I am very hard on myself, and every time I'm like, no, I didn't have a good stream. I could do better. But I think that's also the to pushing me to want to do better because of like how many people always put me down and say you can't do this. So I'm like, I can do better. And I think like how they say like it takes like what 30 or 60 days to get into like a routine. 28. I think because I've been doing that for so long, I am now in that mentality routine of like it's never good enough. Like you need to do better and keep pushing yourself to strive to do better. Yeah. And that's the thing. And like
hold on now, striving to do better is wonderful. Appreciating the growth you have made along the journey towards greatness is, I would argue, the more important skill to do. It's easy to see the goal and want the goal forever. And if you're a motivated person, you're going to set that goal probably higher than you truly believe you can obtain. But if you set the goal for the moon and you land in orbit, did you fail? Or did you land in orbit and you got further to go? Right?
Yeah.
So by having definable metrics, it could be views, it could be chat engagement, it could be XYZ, but by having those, you can look at your streams from a more objective standpoint rather than I'm my worst critic. I can't believe I made that joke. I can't believe I was quiet for as long as I was. I can't believe I didn't do this. That's easy for you to do. But you know what's hard to do is pick out the good stuff. Make a point to write down 3 things you liked about the stream. That's hard. But if you don't do that, you'll always think you're failing. Every time. Because you're never reaching the sun. But so that's what I mean though. You have wonderful goals. You're not giving yourself an ounce of time to appreciate what you're doing. Look at your background, your shirt. I mean, even these small victories, brother. I could tell you brushed your hair. You know what I mean? Like these, well, finger brush, whatever it may be. But ultimately, people don't take enough credit for the little things that they do that are great. And think about how good you have made my day. I am interviewing a friend who is expressing his really private details for me and my community. I am brimming with appreciation and honor. I'm honored to be talking to you right now. Right? So if that's not a victory for you, right? How good, I would think, how good does that make you feel? I would hope like getting a compliment would make me feel great. But I bet you won't spend 2 seconds thinking you're a good person because you made Marcus super, super happy today.
Yeah, because I don't know, like when I think about like helping people and stuff, like yes, I like helping people and I like hearing like, yeah, Marcus is happy. Like that's good. Like I'm glad I made you happy. But like for me, it doesn't register because it's like that's just me. Like I don't think like I should be praised for it because like that's just me being what in opinion a person should be, is just somebody who helps others, not like most of the people out there in a day and age who are just like they don't give a crap about anybody.
But you do. So you, by your own definition, are special. How come you don't believe yourself? And again, we might not have an answer to that, but that is the question.
I just think because like I've always done it, to me it doesn't seem out of the ordinary. So when people are like, man, like you're really helpful, like you're really caring, I'm just like, what? I'm like, no, like that's just me. Like, what are you talking about?
Everyone should be, jackass.
I'm like, listen, I'm like, they're like, oh, well, you did that for that like lady, like you held the door open, like that was really nice. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I held the door open. I'm like, people couldn't do that now and again. I'm like, it's not like, oh my God, I should be praised for it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. I'm like, but I'm like, I get it. Like, and if I really sat down and think about it, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, most people don't do a lot of things that we do. Like, we don't sit there and willing to listen to people, or we pretend to listen, and like, we don't say, hey, if you need to talk, I'm here, and share the things like the experiences you've had, the experiences that I had. So I'm like, yeah, I get it. But
that's his new name.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Runic, is that you?
It's you were your name so much I don't even know anymore.
Yeah. But go on. We're on it. Don't worry. There's no power here. We are the gods and the lords of this fucking area, okay? So,
yeah.
But, just, I think there's something to there. There's something to that, right? Just like if you have to lift weights to get strong, run to get cardio, eat healthy to poop good. If you want to love yourself and not feel guilty or shame for your failures that aren't actually failures, you need to work on your self-love muscle. And that's not what you think it is. Okay? You need to work on the ability to appreciate your successes. And even though it may not seem extraordinary and good to you, you need to learn that it is extraordinary and good to others. And that's important. Your impact in the world is positive. Even if you think it's a nothing issue, you are making people happy every time you open that door. Every time you say, good morning, ma'am. Hello, sir. You're polite to people. That is a quality to appreciate, because if you don't appreciate it, will your daughter appreciate being a polite, wonderful person? Right? Like, you want her to see you being proud of how good you are. And it will make you feel better.
Yeah, because, I mean, even now, like, you know, I look back and say about like all this stuff, and like I know for me, one of the things that I am super hard about, and I know is, you know, everybody constantly tells me like, you're a good dad, like you're an amazing dad, like you know, you went above and beyond, like you didn't want kids for the reason of what I'm going through now, but they're like, you had one, you stepped up, like when you knew things weren't, you know, you were stuck. Well, I don't want to say stuck with her, but
I know
you know,
what
like,
you
I
mean.
was gonna have her.
Yeah,
I was like, you know, like I don't really know 100% everything that I need to know, especially about like, you know, taking care of a little girl. So like, I went to parenting classes, and like to me that was just like what I needed to do as like a parent. And like even though like everyone's like, yeah, that's like I don't know many parents that would do that, especially like single dads or something, or even moms, and they're like, you know, like you're a good dad. But like for me, like I never feel that way. And I'm like, even now people would be like, well, do you know if your daughter wants to live with you or not? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I think she'd rather live with her mom because like she's a girl, and like they do a lot more stuff than what, you know, me and her do. But I'm like, we do a lot of stuff at home and like going out to the park and stuff, and like we still do things, but I feel like her mom does a lot more bigger things to try to like make up for like overcompensate. And you know, one of the things in parenting classes, you don't ever ask your children about certain things when it comes between co-parenting.
Oh, and, absolutely not. That's part of being a parent.
Yeah, and it was brought up in a video chat of, you know, her asking our daughter of where would you like to live? And our daughter said, you know, daddy. And she simply said, well, are you sure? Like, do you want some more time to think about it? You know, kind of trying to put into her head, like, you know, like, are you sure? Like, you know, maybe you're sure you don't want to say mom. And like, you know, before we ended that conversation, like, you know, an hour and a half later, like she asked her again, and our daughter was like, no, I want to live with dad. Yeah. And like, that made me feel really good, because it's like, you know, she's at her mom's house. I didn't expect it. And it's like, you know, those things, like, even with Holly, like when she reached out to me, she's like, hey, are you okay? Like, when are you coming back? Like, I miss you. Like, yeah, I don't really ever stop to think of like, yes, these people miss me. But for me, like, I'm just streaming. I'm having fun. I'm talking to you guys. Like, I don't, in my brain, I don't process like how I'm affecting other people by just streaming. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, if I would sit down and think about the positives, I'm like, there's probably a lot. But for me, I'm like, I'm so used to it, I don't really take the time to think, how am I affecting this person? I'm just go, 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 do. And it's just normal for me. So when you say, hey, like, you went above and beyond, you're like, you made my day doing this. I'm just like, man. But it's just me being me. I'm like, I don't
and you're really understand. Awesome. That's the part, that's the disconnect. You say you being you, and we're saying, hey, did you know that you being you is awesome?
Yeah.
See, yeah.
And it's the same thing with you too, because like I know sometimes like you say like, oh, like I'm down and I don't feel, and like I say really nice things.
Oh, like, man, absolutely.
I'm like, but then like now you're saying something back, and I'm like, am I the same way? Am I
Hello?
doing the same thing Marcus
Where the hell
does?
do you
I'm like,
think all
okay.
this comes from? I'll just pull it out of my ass, right? Like, trust me, man, I understand the struggle of not being worthy, right? You know me, I'm a pretty, there's a lot of things I say that I try to be humble about and not whatever. There's two things that I am the most arrogant and confident about because I know it's true. I know I'm smart and I know I'm handsome. No, and I know that I'm good at this type of shit. And the reason I'm good at this type of shit is because I've lived the life, man. I genuinely care about listening to people and trying to understand what they're doing. And when you've lived through trauma, it's a natural defense mechanism. The better you understand people, the more you can avoid getting hurt by them, period. You can avoid confrontation. You can avoid things that will get you insulted or judged or confronted, right? And doing that makes you just a person that understands other people. You took it in a direction of the positive way. You took trauma and turned it into love. I genuinely believe that you love people. I think you like making people happy. I think you enjoy seeing people smile, and you get true, genuine satisfaction of helping. Is that true? That's a damn good
100%.
person to me.
Yeah.
That's one of the nicest people I've met in a long time.
Yeah. And the big part of that is because I feel like watching different animes and stuff, and people always say like, "Oh, anime's for kids. Like, you're not gonna learn anything from anime."
Bullshit.
A vast majority of the way I am is because of anime. I'm like, I've learned a lot of life lessons. I'm like, take Naruto for example. I was like, he was shunned. I'm like, his family died. I'm like, he had no one. I'm like, except that one person who cared about him and constantly tried to get him to be on the right path and stop being mischievous and stuff.
Yep.
And he started caring, and he still cared for everyone and wanted to protect everybody. So nobody felt the way that he did. And I learned that from that anime.
Yep.
And it fits because I'm the same way. I don't want anybody ever to feel the way that I have growing up and going through the things that I did. I'm like, because I know how it felt.
Yep.
And I will do whatever it takes to protect people and make them happy. And I'm like, there's so many things you can learn if you're willing to just listen and pay attention. And I'm like, but it's true. And I feel like the most genuine people I have met are people who have gone through bad things or bad times in their life and turned it into a positive.
Well, they have a perspective of sorrow. They truly understand pain. They understand pain better than anybody because they're in it constantly. Right? And I hate that that's the reality, but you're absolutely right. That struggle is what makes people either become the evil that created them or they become the hero, and they don't want anybody to experience that pain because they know better than anybody what it feels like. And really, so one thing this is on topic, but I think there's something to be said for living a purposeful life that gives you happiness, right? Sitting at home with your thumb up your butt, wondering why you're not a good person will make anybody hate themselves, right? Because you're just sitting there. You don't really have a reason to be, even if it's as simple as a job. And, and Fletch, again, this is kind of touching on you. Being military myself, once you lose that purpose for being, especially as an adult, only thing that's left is trying to validate why you suck. And there's nothing better our brains will do than find reasons to prove us right. And if what we're trying to prove right is that we suck, I mean, how good are we ever going to truly treat ourselves? Like, what do you do for yourself that is purely for your own selfish gain? Nothing. And that's horrible. Sorry.
Yeah, my friends used to always say like, "Oh man, you're so lucky. You get to stay at home and like you get a week without your kid. You can just do whatever." And like even before that, they're like, "You just can play games all day." I'm like, "Do you know how much I wish I could go back to work?" I'm like, I hate sitting in this house. I'm like, I need something to do. I said, because just sitting here, I'm like, what is my purpose in life anymore? I was like, why am I even here? I'm like, what is there for me to do? I'm like, I can't work anymore.
Yep.
I said, there goes basically my interactions with people. I said, I don't have, at the time, I didn't really have an income, so I couldn't really go anywhere.
Yep.
I'm like, now, like, I obviously have something to do. Like, my purpose is streaming, helping people. Like, I've come positive out of it. I'm like, but I'm like, yeah, it's absolutely the worst. Just sitting in your mind, not talking to people. I'm like, it is the worst. I'm like, I don't know how people wish that they could do this. I'm like, because I sure as hell wish I never got to the point where I got qualified as disabled and I could still work, because I hate it.
So
I hate not doing stuff.
Because you feel like a loser, and I love you for it. I'm not calling you a loser, but I can almost promise that's what you feel like, right? You don't want to just be sitting on your ass. You want to be doing something that matters. And even if it's not a conscious desire, it's like some people think, oh, I love doing nothing, but then they're angry all the time and they don't know why. You know, because when's the last time like you said, when's the last time you did something that gave you purpose? It made you proud. And like you said, you found streaming. Streaming gave you purpose, right? And that is huge, because when I first met you, if you go back in our chats, man, the way you talked then and the way you talk now, you are a million times happier and better. You may see a lot of defeats and stuff, but ultimately, brother, it's amazing. It's truly amazing, the growth I have seen in you. And that's, again, I say that to make sure you understand you got a lot of victories.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard. I mean, like I tell her, I always say, I'm like, listen, I'm like, you always got to find the silver lining in the negative. I'm like, because if you don't, I'm like, you are going to be in for a bad time. Yeah. And like, I tell people that, but it is so hard for me to follow my own damn advice. And I'm just like, why can I not? Yeah. I'm like, I don't get it. And I'm
you don't believe yourself.
It's true.
You know, but that's where, going back to our last time we talked, you killed it with direction, man. Because you don't believe yourself, but I basically said all the same shit that you said to me about yourself, if that makes any sense. I put the Marcus compliment spin on it, and I'm your hype guy. But ultimately, everything that you decided to do on your schedule that you got super excited about were ideas that came from you, right? Yeah. And those are all victories. And Fletch, I'm not ignoring you. I promise. I'm reading all of it. Those are the victories that we hang our hat on. And sorry, so I got a little distracted on that last one. But ultimately, Merc, I'm iterating the point that you keep rolling your eyes at. And that's, you're awesome. We're going to work on getting you to believe that you're awesome. And a big part of that is going to be just continuing to endure. I mean, it's almost like a point of COVID at this point, right? Like, you want it gone so bad, but the court systems keep getting called. Right?
Yeah. You know, at this point, I just joke. I'm like, I feel like I'm just on a marathon. I said, and it's just, you know,
you're not at all.
And, you know, and it happens. But I'm like, you know what? I'm like, at this point, I'm not phased. Honestly, I said,
good.
As much as I get kind of upset and depressed and stuff like that, it's not even, I think, anymore so much about me. It's about Emma and how much she's dealt with as like a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, now going on 5. I'm like, that is my biggest thing that makes me sad, because I just feel like there's nothing I can do, and I feel so helpless.
And that's where, when you feel that way, again, we focus on the things you can do. Yeah. And that's what we did the first time. That's what we're going to do this time. Because at the end of the day, man, if you only thing you think about is the things you have no control over, you're going to be not happy. And that's why we don't focus on those. We endure those, but we focus on the things that we do have control over, right? Yeah. And just ultimately, it's okay to not be okay. Don't ever take not being okay to a place of bad, right? Because that's not what it is. You're struggling for very legitimate reasons. And you are not less of a person because you feel bad about you living in a shitty situation.
Yeah. And too, like, my thing is, like, I know this is going to be the final say and done whenever this court stuff happens and it's over. And no matter the outcome, you know, I got to think positive. But, like, I feel like once that is done, I will be so much better, because then I feel like I can freely talk about it. Yep. Like, I feel like I constantly have to walk on eggshells. And even though I don't mention names and stuff like that, it's still the simple fact of I have to deal with that, and at some point it's probably going to get brought up. Like, even on Twitter, like when I did the whole parenting thing about asking about like the whole calling my mom thing, I didn't mention any names. I didn't say anything, but it was thrown back in my face and saying, oh, you're posting about it. I'm like, I didn't post about anybody. I didn't mention your name. But it's that kind of thing of like
the Amber Heard defense.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, I want to be able to put that out there to ask questions, because I want to make sure that I am not in the wrong. And that is one thing that is very, very hard for people, is to admit when they're wrong or make sure they're not in the wrong. There is somebody that I talked to that we got in a huge argument, and I don't really speak to anymore because they could never get over the fact that like it's their way or like there's no other way. And I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I'm like, I'm not an angry person. I'll try to give everybody a chance, but I get to the point where I can't keep hitting my head against the wall. And
true.
I'm like, and that's how I feel currently. Like, it's always just like ups and downs. And I'm like, I've gotten better with your help of, you know, looking at the positives and telling myself it's going to be good and we good outcome and stuff. But like you said, from the beginning, I definitely was not as energetic and happy and chipper.
And that's where it takes conversations like this to help you remember how far you've come. Okay? Yeah. Because one setback doesn't get you to go back to the start line. And, you know, and that's where, as we shift towards realigning and refocusing for stream, right? We're future based. We look towards what's next because that's all you can do. What's happened has happened. The phone calls have been made. The bullshit is going to be coming at you. It's not your first rodeo. So we compartmentalize that and we focus on the things we can do. Like, you got a whole list of things that you were super pumped to tell me about until 24 hours ago, right?
Yep, and it all went downhill because all I focused on was the negative because it's just like, even though I'm used to it, it's still there. And it's still there. Tiring and draining. And it's just like, you know, it's bad. I get it for people.
I'm picking you up, brother. That's the thing. Marcus the life preserver. I'm fluffy. I got a lot of surface area, you know? So that's where I said it's a bummer and it's hard to rally the energy, even if it feels like we're going to do all this work, talk a bunch of stream stuff. And I know I'm not going to do any of it, even if that's what's going in your mind. If I'm wrong, that's fine, but I don't think I am. And if that's what's going in your mind, I don't care because you're not wasting my time because I just admitted to you. I know what you think you're already going to do. Because even if you don't do anything we talk about at all, I'm going to do this again next week with you.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, heck yeah. I mean, and having that list as well that you gave me.
Yeah.
Like, I checked it off. I felt good. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, why did it take me having somebody sitting down with me and writing a list for me to do this? I'm like, why couldn't I just do it on my own?
Doesn't matter.
But I got it done.
But you got it done. Because ultimately, who gives a shit? You got it done, right? It's the same reason why some people need help at math, other people need help at science. There are certain personality traits that complement each other. And when you find people like that, like you and I, you just accept the truth that I'm not as good at coming up with this stuff, but I'm a hell of an executor. He tells me something, then I do it. There's no shame in that at all, because I'm the opposite. I'm an idea guy. I struggle so bad, and I come up with a great idea, and then I don't do shit with it. And then I get really guilty about not doing it.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you may feel bad about one thing. Well, guess what? I feel bad about another thing. Okay. So ultimately, this is kind of cruel, but don't feel special, right? Accept the shortcoming, work towards improving it. And that's what we focus on. We don't focus on oh man, how embarrassing that my friend had to help me. Get out of here. I'm going to help you until you make it impossible to, which I don't think will happen because I'm a stubborn son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the whole Yoda saying of, do or do not, there is no try. And like, I constantly tell myself that because like some of my friends, when they get sad or like they say they want to do this, but they don't think they can. And I'm like, do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. I'm like, honestly, I was like, I had one person, I said, tell me I should get into streaming. I said, I really wasn't into it. I kind of tried, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I really don't think I did. I said, and I met one guy who fixed my sound, fixed some video issues that I had because the other person who was helping me was like MIA, busy, dealing with his own stuff. I said, and he told me, do it. Just do it. Like,
push the button.
He didn't say try or do it. He's like, you're gonna do it. And I did. I'm like, because it's true. There is no trying. You're either going to do it or you're not.
Yep. And
like,
doing it doesn't mean succeeding at it.
No.
Doing it means you do it. If you succeed, hell yeah. But even if you don't, hey, at least you did it. Do you know how many things I've done that I failed? And I tell that story like I am the most successful version of that has ever happened. I embrace that failure like a badge of honor, because ultimately it's the story, it's the effort. It's literally in your name, storyteller, right? It's the ability to tell the story, tell the experience. If that experience happens to end in a failure, finger quotes, if it happens to end in a failure, who gives a shit? It's still a story. You still gained something from it. And that's, I love that you pulled the trigger, man. That's huge. It's important.
Because,
go ahead.
Like, it is, because, I mean, if you think about it, if you don't ever try, you're going to regret it. And that was one thing I learned, because one of my best friends, who I love to death, I've known her for 17 years.
Jeez.
I want to say 17 years.
Yeah.
Like, we were best friends. I mean, like, we would do, and there is nobody else I can compare to her. We went 4 years without talking because we had a falling out. And the minute we started talking again, it's like no time passed. Like, we forgot about what we were arguing about. Like, we would do late night drives, just sitting in a park, talking for hours on end till like the sun would come up. I would go to work with like no sleep because we would just hang out, like everything together.
I love it.
And I always had a crush on her, and she liked me, but I never pulled the trigger because I was always terrified, because she was so gorgeous and she was so good looking. Like, I was not good enough for her. Like, what if we don't work out? Like, I'm gonna lose my best friend.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still love her to death. You know, I still think she still cares about me and stuff. And you know, there's situations she's in that aren't the best, but like, I always regret. And I think that's when I really realized, like, when I realized as I got older, like, not pulling that trigger of what if I would have dated her, what would have happened, how my life turned out.
Yep.
And that was probably a couple years ago, honestly, when I was like, you know what, from now on, you just need to do it. Take that chance.
Yeah.
Because I don't want any more regrets, because I don't have many, but that 100% every single day that I talk to her, I think about it. And I'm just like, you know, what if we were together? You might not be in this situation, or I might not be in the situation I'm in. Like, how different would my life be?
And ultimately, I'm a big supporter of that too, for the reason of it's just so much better to try and fail than never try and regret. Because like I'm same as you, man. I don't have many regrets, but the few I do, oh bud, there's some of like the heaviest things in the suitcase, you know? And it's just regret ain't worth it, because love, even if it's hot and fast and ends in horrible trauma, just when you were happy, oh baby, it feels so good. And as somebody who's loved and lost many broken hearts, I've cried over so many women, it's just ridiculous. Because I'm a little bit of a crier, you know, but ultimately I learned more from the broken heart than I ever learned. Well, I guess Lindsay's the exception, but I wouldn't have been able to get Lindsay had I not gone through all the trauma of the past relationships. I needed those bad experiences that were coupled with wonderful experiences to be able to appreciate the current situation. So there's a little bit of love when it comes to pain. You know, you got to appreciate it, because it is beneficial. It's when it gets out of hand and you kind of lose yourself in it is when that's what we're talking about today, right? When it's too much sorrow, too much pain. And we got to realign our perspectives so that we can better handle the things that we used to be able to handle. Yeah, man, that makes your arms look so skinny. It's funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are skinny. I mean, they're twigs. I mean,
use a rubber band for a wristwatch.
I can get my fingers around pretty
high.
Oh
my gosh,
you know?
Merc.
But
you gotta eat.
Yeah, I feel like that's part of my ex's problem. Like I said, is I feel like because she doesn't open up and talk about things, she's in the negative of like, you know, oh, you know, there's nothing good in a relationship, like, you know, this and that, and she just focuses on the negatives. She doesn't focus on any of the positives, and that's my thing of why everybody's like, how can you still care? Like, how can you still deal with this and like make excuses for her and defend her sometimes? And I'm like, because it wasn't always bad. I'm like, the person I see now is not the person I fell in love with. I'm like, I know her when she was, you know, the person that I fell in love with. I'm like, I know people change, but I know a big part of this is because she's focusing on the negative and not remembering the good times. I'm like, that is what has saved me from being the most despicable person. Is I focused on the good times. I'm like, because if I focus on the bad times, oh yeah, absolutely. I'd be like, you know what? I hope you get hit by a bus. I don't want to talk to you. Please leave me alone.
Imagine being the bus driver. No one ever thinks
But-
about the bus driver.
No.
Everyone's like,
But it's
God, we get hit by a bus. And that dude's like, oh, man, baby, I did it again. And he's just drinking, smoking. It's horrible. No one ever thinks of the bus driver.
Like, good. You helped me get rid of this person.
Thanks, man.
But you know what?
He's just shaking at the wheel like, oh, my God. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just like, it's, even with, wow, I'm having a brain fart right now.
You were talking about
Fletch.
Yeah.
Fletch was saying, she's sorry that, she's trying to make it seem like it's about her. But it's like,
no.
Listen, if you don't talk about it, if you don't open up to people, like, you're going to regret it. And, like, it's why we're here. Like, if we need to shut down, talking about us and focus on her, she needs to open up and we can try to help the best we can. 100%, because that's what we're here for. Like, me, not talking about things. It's, if you don't open up, you will always regret it. And that's why, when things get bad with people, I'll open up. I don't sugarcoat things. You might say, wow, you're a real D-bag for the way you said things to me. But I'm like, listen, would you rather I not tell you and you wonder why I'm angry, or we're not talking, or we're not speaking, or doing this or that? Or would you rather me be honest and just tell you how it is? I mean, I'm not going to be a super polite about it, but
like, listen here, fatty, we got to talk, right? Like, that's the wrong approach.
Like, certain people, yes, I will sugarcoat it with, the whole analogy of, like, well, if your girlfriend or your wife says, hey, does this dress make me look fat? And yes, it does. Like, do you tell her, or do you say, no, baby, you look good?
Depends where you're going.
And it's like, it depends on the situation and stuff like that. Like, is this a person who can handle you kind of being straightforward in a kind of nice way?
Yeah.
Or are they going to break down? And
do they need to feel pretty? Let them feel pretty. But ultimately, that comes down to caring about people. Taking the time to actually understand who they are so that you can best provide happiness for them. Because sometimes people need to hear the bad shit. They need to know that their ass looks big, or right? Because that they'll feel worse if they heard it from someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
and I feel like that's good with streaming, is like taking that into when you stream, is understanding your viewers and kind of what they want, and like talking to them. Because for me, seeing the big viewers who kind of don't really interact much with their chat anymore, I feel like at that point, they don't really care. They're just there to, have you people there to watch them and make the money. They don't really care about their chat. They could care less. And I'm like, I don't ever want to be that person.
Yeah. I'll disagree with you respectfully on that one to a point. Now, granted, I'm admittedly not a very large consumer of streams. I could... I'm an old man. I watch YouTube on my TV mounted on the wall, right? That's as soon as I can do that with Twitch, I'll probably watch a lot more Twitch, but I can't yet. So, ultimately that's where we are. But I would think there's a degree remove it from Twitch, right? Apply the almost exact same logic, but away from Twitch. Let's look at like a band, right? Or musicians. When they first start out, they're playing at a local pub, sitting on a box, literally right next to their number one and only fan, talking with them, chilling with them, everything's cool and hunky-dory. As their venues increase, and then all of a sudden say they're on tour for the first time, they have to be in Burbank by 1. They can't even hang out after the show anymore because they're moving on. Now, I would say on like a purely, definable level, there's a degree of care that goes away because, well, why don't you make more time for us, et cetera, et cetera. But I also think that there's just a degree of detachment that starts to happen as your success starts to grow. Because you've been in chats where it's like 20 people are watching. And if it's blasting by, it can be overwhelming. So from like a professional standpoint, I think as soon as chat starts to become a version of more than any real human being could ever possess, there's a right way to change how you talk to chat. There's a wrong way and a right way. And what would you define? I'm very curious. How do you define those two?
Like, for me, like, yes, I get you will get to a point where you can't keep up with chat and you can't talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And I 100% I understand that. But for me, what
focus on that. What's the right way to do that first, though? Before we go on the but and the negative.
I feel like when chat's getting out of hand, there's a lot of people like you explain like occasionally, like, hey, like guys, listen, I'm not ignoring you. Like I see you guys are chatting. It's hard to keep up with, but like, I am here. I'm trying to pay attention best I can. And they might interact with certain people and try to talk to them a little bit. I just feel like that's the right way of doing it. It's just like explaining, like, listen, chat's crazy. I'm streaming. I'm trying to, entertain you guys as well. Keep an eye on chat. Do multiple things. You know, and do the best they can to kind of watch chat and interact with people when they can and kind of keep up on chat. But I feel like a lot of bigger streamers kind of lose that and they focus more on entertaining so they keep the viewers than actually trying to interact with this one person here or there that they happen to catch the chat.
Yeah. So more you feel it would, even though it wouldn't necessarily change the way the streamer is interacting with chat, if they addressed like, hey, as you guys can see, this is zooming. It's hard for me to talk to individuals. So
let you know that they're still interested, but like it's just they can't. Like they still care. They care about all their viewers. They're happy they're here, but they don't because like I know a couple of streamers that I started watching that honestly I was like I think I'm gonna enjoy them from the TikToks I've seen, and I watch them and they don't really interact with chat at all. Like they don't ever really like they'll get new followers and stuff, and they just seem tone deaf. But they're like, hey, thanks for the follow. And they don't really like. They'll occasionally say something with the chat, but and they just don't seem super interested. And they're just like there to try to keep the people there entertainment wise, but not interact like they're actually there. And I'm like, that bothers me. I'm like, you wouldn't be where you are without your chat. Yeah.
Do you think maybe there's two different types of viewers in that world then? So there's the viewers, like, because I do agree with you. I watch Twitch because I love to talk. I love to chat with people. But I don't watch any big streamers because, well, I'm not talking to them, right? If there's streamers that I watch for entertainment, like Dr. Disrespect, big fan of him. But I would never send a message because why? He will never talk to me in his chat. So I guess, sorry, to rein myself in, do you think that that's actually more of there's different types of viewers and those streamers whom don't interact much with chat but are still successful, they're more, hey, I'm not like and I say this with love because I am a counselor, but I'm not a counselor. I'm not good at talking with chat, but I'm a hell of an entertainer. So I'm just going to focus on entertaining, and they kind of know that their show's not about the chat, so they therefore don't address the fact that they're not interacting. And then the other hand is people who are like, no, I'm here because of the community. And then the viewers go to those streamers because they can get that chatting and interaction. So it's not necessarily that there's a right way to stream. It's more what type of streamer are you? Are you applying to the viewer chatters? Or are you applying to the, hey, streamer monkey, entertain me viewers, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely 100% do feel that way. And I feel like maybe in your profile or something, maybe you should kind of say what kind of stream, like I'm more of an entertainer or I'm more of a chatter, because I feel like when you look at it, you have the lurkers who are just there to probably watch or just have something to listen in the background.
Yep.
You have the people who are there simply because they want to see the game and talk to the person.
Yep.
Then you have the people who are there literally just for entertainment value to just maybe once in a while chat if they happen to get talked to, cool, but it's not their main thing. And I feel like as a person who streams, you really should have that somewhere that person knows, like, what kind of person you're. Like, are you going to be somebody who actually talks to your chat? Are you a person who just entertains and doesn't really give two craps about your chat? Because, like, for me, I'm there for
funny
entertainment.
Word choice.
I don't really care if you really chat with me. But I feel like there's that niche of people who want that fame of, like, that, whether they're an entertainer or they're a chatter, they're big. They want their 5 seconds of fame of like, hey, Dr. Disrespect, how's your day going? Like, you're awesome. Thanks for sharing, whatever it may be. And Dr. Disrespect's like, hey, storyteller. Hey, man. They're like, yeah, I'm doing good today. How are you doing? And he may not say anything to me the rest of the entire stream. But the fact that he said my name or responded to what I said, that was all I wanted out of it.
Oh,
and
so you're like won the lottery.
There.
You won the lottery.
And I feel like that's the kind of different viewers that they're there. But like, I feel like some people, you kind of get that. With me, I try to do both. I try to entertain and keep up with chat. I feel like with Dr. Disrespect, when you're going to Dr. Respect's chat, he's an entertainer, 100%. You can't go in there and say that he's there for chat. In my opinion, he's 100% pure entertainer. And if you go in there thinking otherwise, I feel like you really have some issues of not getting social cues, because to me, like, I feel like, I mean, look at him. You can't say he's not an entertainer. I'm like, but then you go into somebody's chat where, like, you may not really be able to tell.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I feel like there should be some kind of form, maybe in your bio or something, that you can tell what kind of person you're getting into, so you know if you're in the right place. So
you put, and I push you back again, because essentially you kind of argued for me there a little bit, but you're putting the burden of knowing what people want on the streamer. I would argue that I think people who are consuming streams, it's kind of up to them to decide if they're in the right place.
Yeah, like, I feel like it should be 50-50. Like, you as somebody who's watching, you should know what you want from the streamer. But at the same time, I also feel like at the same time, it's part of the streamer's responsibility as a streamer to let, like, they don't need to say it in chat. Like, just have it in your bio saying, I'm purely an entertainer, or like, I frequently talk chat. So like that way, like, people can view. Yeah, so that way people can see it, and they don't need to say it every single time that they stream, because I feel like if you know what you want as the consumer, you can look at that person's profile and be like, oh, they're a pure entertainer. That's not for me. Instead of going in and be like, okay, well, I've watched a couple streams. They don't entertain with chat. This streamer is, a jerk. I don't want to be in here. He doesn't care about chat, and leaves. Yeah,
because to me, that's the wrong way to go.
Absolutely.
If somebody goes in and it's like, fuck this guy for not giving me what I want, I would just go, what? Like,
exactly.
What do you mean? Go, like, this ain't your show. Change the channel. But like you said, people get so pissed, like, oh, you don't talk to chat, do you? And it's just obviously not, fuckhead. Like, thanks for trying to tell me I'm bad at this, rather than just going to a streamer who does interact with chat. And that, because here's a great example. Like, say someone came in to this show today. Ultimately, there's been some heavy stuff that I am perfectly fine with, that I haven't addressed because I'm talking to you, right? Like, you are my who I'm giving respect to, and I do trust that Fletch understands that. But ultimately, if she didn't, I would just say, well, I'm sorry, Fletch, kind of deal, because ultimately this is what the show is today. That is interesting, though, because I see your point. Like, essentially, you need to describe your show appropriately so that people can appropriately know what they're going to get. But one thing that's tough is, like, how would I describe? I could kind of generally describe what I do, but one day I might be talking mental health. The other day I might be talking something super controversial, or I might be playing Apex. So I can't put everything that could possibly happen. But I'm not saying that. I don't like to go to extremes. I'm just trying to see what is like a true, realistic solution that doesn't cater to the, ultimately the consumer, because
one group or the other. Yeah.
It's so hard. You can't make everybody happy. So that's interesting.
I don't feel like you could make everybody happy, but
you can't. It's impossible.
Taking that step to at least put something there so someone gets a general idea of like what you do. So like
accurately describe.
You do everything. It doesn't need to be 100% accurate, but you could be like, I'm a community driven, diverse content creator. So they know, like, okay, he talks to his chat and he does a lot of different things. Or, I'm just a pure entertainer who does different things. Or like, I'm just purely entertainment. So that way somebody understands, like, look, they do a lot of different things, but they're just pure entertainment. They're not really interacting with chat. Or here,
you give a lot of credit.
With chat. They do different things. But I know it's
people
hard.
Don't read descriptions. Yeah.
And I know that. But it's like,
they just going, hey, why aren't you talking to chat? It's like, get fucked, because
And they can't be like, oh, it's your fault, Marcus, because you don't have anything anywhere that, you said that you don't, you talk to chat, but I'm not here for that. I just want you to entertain. It's like, well, listen, if you would just click on my profile, it's right there. That's not my problem.
See, it's just personal independence, man. That's why ultimately, no matter how many times we go round and round and round, there's no rules, there's no laws, there's no description that will make people not be people. And ultimately, that's where, like, kind of what we talked about the whole time, is it really comes down to that individual person. If you and me as streamers, we need to understand what we want to do, believe that what we're doing is right, and try to do it to the highest level that we possibly can do it. Because at the end of the day, if nobody likes it, who gives a fuck? We're happy. We're proud of what we did. And we'll take the punch on the chin that it didn't go as good as we hoped it would later. But when I make some of these shorts and I put them on YouTube and it only gets 2 views, if I am proud of what I made, I will smile every time I watch it. Because ultimately, I do trust that I made the right decision. And same deal. If some chatter comes in and says I'm streaming wrong, it has no bearing on me because I know that I have put in the effort, that I am doing my best version of streaming.
Yeah, and my thing too is like, okay, I'll take that into consideration. What am I doing wrong in your opinion? And I might write it down. So if it happens frequently, I can change it.
Feedback.
Because like I started doing with mine, like I kind of started looking at streaming as like it's a movie. Like if I have a schedule and I'm telling you what I'm going to be streaming, I'm like, okay, I'm letting you know this is what I'm streaming. This is what you're going to be getting that day. You're getting something of, okay, I'm playing Tarkov. So I'm going to be playing a shooting game. Like that's kind of what you're getting. Now with me talking and everything, you may not know, but like at least it's there, so you know what you're getting. Because I'm like, would I want to watch someone who I don't kind of have an inkling of what's gonna happen? I'm like, because
exactly.
I'm like, it's a movie. If I'm going into a streamer blind, I'm like, is this really for me? Like, am I gonna be entertained here? Like, I don't know what I'm getting into. Like, I don't know what they're streaming. I don't know what this is. Like, I feel like to be a bit more successful, kind of having a little something to kind of give the gist of like what you're doing is more beneficial.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like I don't really know how to describe it, but like.
Well, I got 2 things really for you. One, we gotta disconnect and reconnect because I lost you. So that's 1. 2, actually that's the most important. So one sec. Let's try this. Hey man, we flexecute here. All right, Storytellermerc. You are now a disembodied voice.
Ooh.
Because why not? Hope if something changes, we'll bring your face back up. But again, with saying everything we just talked about, man, that's huge. It's important. And it really, all of that, I just kind of want to wrap it up with, you are so much stronger than you give yourself credit for. And I will tell you this for as long as I know you. And now that we've established how awesome and strong you are, it is time for us to talk about the future. Because that is the only... You have to, man. The future is what... It holds all of our happiness, all of our dreams, all of our failures, and all of our successes. And because of that, we try to utilize and make the future as controlled as possible. And it's impossible, but that's why we try as hard as we can to do it. So we had a to-do list for you of awesome things. And I am curious. Let's hear about your successes.
Okay. So we had 8 things on that list.
Yes, we did.
I completed 6 of them. 2 of them I did not complete.
Hey, let's go.
Test account.
Done.
Did not happen. Have not made a test account.
That's easy. Okay. That's easy. Okay.
That's the
easiest one.
I know, right? So, go live checklist. That's done.
Yay! Tell me about it.
Mission statement.
Tell me about it.
Well, so my go live checklist. First off, make sure bring up OBS.
Chip. Okay.
Go live to put myself into starting soon. So that gives me roughly 10 minutes to go everything. I make sure my mic is working. I make sure it's picking up in-game sound. Then,
so smart.
Sometimes I'll quickly flop over to live and swap back to see if it pops up real quick, just to make sure it's picking stuff up.
Oh, like you start it and then stop. Okay.
And then quickly flip back to starting soon.
It's almost like if you had a test account.
And, I know, man.
Send out a noti.
It would be so much easier.
Yeah. Okay. I love it.
So then I did my mission statement in my.
Wait, I got a question. Hold on.
Yes.
So in that go live checklist, how broken down is it? And this is more for my curiosity. So does it have
it's broken down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I go through the steps.
And so you don't
that way
need
it's not just written in a thing.
Well, so you don't need it like update title.
No.
Okay. And see, and that's more of a curiosity.
That's an automatic thing for me.
Oh, well, there you go. I love that. I wish I was like that for certain things. So that's beautiful. Okay, mission statement. I'm pumped. Let's hear it.
What did I actually put as my mission statement? To be honest,
Oh.
on here. I'm gonna pull my profile here. Um. So main channel's goals was my own special thing I put up.
Yep.
The main focus of my channel is to simply have fun and give back to the amazing Twitch community. Mental health and co-parenting advice is the main topics I discuss on my channel. And then I put like my main games that I kind of play on the channel because that is my main focus.
Yeah,
my
it
main goal
absolutely
is
is.
to just have fun and to give back to the Twitch community who has given to me so far.
I love that. It's clear, it's concise, and it truly epitomizes what you want to do. I love that. That's so good. Doesn't that feel good to have something to say? Like, if hey, what's your channel about? Oh, well, let me tell you. Let me tell you exactly what my channel is about. Boom, boom, boom. Oof. I just got nipple tingles on that one. That was good. All right.
Yeah,
so what else you got?
We had 5 role models.
Yes. That's a tough one.
I mean, I was like, okay, role models. I'm like, well, how role model wise? I'm like, all right, Dr. Disrespect I could see.
Yep.
Because he's
He's
been
one
through
of
some
mine.
stuff.
He's one of mine.
I'm like, and he definitely has changed from something bad that happened on Twitch, which obviously we're never going to know what exactly happened, but he went from, not going there to kind of doing his own thing, and he's being successful, own gaming studio now. Like, it's crazy.
It's amazing.
I'm like, I think that's
doing.
cool what he's done. I'm like, Stone Talon Mountain. I saw him on Facebook Gaming when he was first kind of really starting out and seeing bits here and there to now, like, he's super huge. Had a kid, taking care of the kid and still streaming, a bunch of cool stuff he's done. Like, he started his own kind of, like, be successful kind of, like, you pay him, I think it's monthly, and you can see, like, his videos he does with other people to show you how to be successful and, like, how he became successful, what he does, and, like, what you can kind of do to help.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is amazing. He's giving back to people like Dr. Disrespect. Yeah. I kind of was like, those two people, I really feel like him. And then there's another guy, and I can't think of his name to save the life of me, and I see him pretty often, but he is one of the biggest people I know on Twitch and everywhere else that I see.
Chip
he
says
talks
hi.
about, like, hi, Chip. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Is that he talks about, like, like, if you want to do something, do it. Like, don't listen to other people. He's like, like, I remember being broke when I was younger and, like, complaining I couldn't make money. And he's like, what was stopping me? So he started out doing yard sales, and he was flipping yard sales to make money.
Wow.
And he's like, I made my first, like, couple $100,000, flipping yard sales. He's like,
That's
and then I went
crazy.
and did this, and I can't think of his name, but he's super huge. And it drives me nuts because, like, he's a motivational speaker. He talks about people all the time and, like, tell them, like, well, why can't you do this?
I don't know. When you think of it, let me know. He sounds like quite the speaker. It sounds like quite a person to listen to.
Yeah, because I'm not a big person about motivational speakers.
Oh, I love.
But he's one
motivational
person
speakers.
I absolutely will.
Nice, man. Whenever you find his name, whatever his name may be. Are you looking him up?
Yeah, because he's right here. Gary V, that's his name.
Oh, yeah, dude. Gary V's a badass.
And he's one other person I kind of listen to when it comes to that
Yeah,
stuff.
I like Gary V. Okay.
But yeah, those are kind of my 3 role models that I kind of picked out to kind of focus on and see what they do and kind of see how I can maybe implement stuff.
Dr. Disrespect, Stone Talent Mouth?
Stone Talent Mountain.
Mountain, wow. I wrote down something. I think it was supposed to be Mountain. Okay. And then Gary V. Yeah, I like him too. Gary V is great. Stone Mountain 64. Nice. It could have been 69. Missed opportunity. All right. So what else you got?
We had defined show/stream, which again I kind of put in there with what I play on the channel. The goal of everything. So in defining, like, I'm going to be an entertainer.
Yep.
With giving back to community. So I feel like we covered that in last stream actually.
I love it. I love it.
6 was pick a genre/game type/show or whatever for the channel, which I kind of followed through. We play a lot of story-driven games.
Well, and your characters too. Don't forget, you're developing like a whole storyteller theme here.
We got storyteller for story-driven games. We have my driver for when I play racing games or truck sims, whatever. And then coming next month, I'm going to be getting an astronaut helmet to do when I play space games and stuff like that. So looking forward to that.
It's so fun. So what? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to try to describe, from the outside looking in. So what I see, you kind of want to embody that storyteller namesake, right? So regardless of what you're playing, you have some version of like either a costume, a way you're playing, or something along those lines that like is the storyteller, like the DM, if you will, of the video game.
Kinda, yeah. Because I'm like, if somebody says, well, yeah, you talk about storyteller a lot, like what is he about? And I'm like, if you had to describe me, like how would you like, just be like, he's an entertainer.
Yeah, I love it. Entertainer with an emphasis on community and chatting.
Yeah.
I love that. Ah, that's so good. Okay, what else you got?
So then the other two that we kind of had to do was the other one that the find more creative outlet, which
I'm excited to hear that one.
Book writing, I definitely been working on.
You posted in the Discord.
Yeah, I posted a little bit there. I've been posting in another Discord that I was doing a little bit of story. I had a couple people where I was in their streams and they're like, "Hey, story, like welcome in, like you got a story for us?" And I'm like, this doesn't usually happen. Nobody actually ever asked me that. And I'm like,
you got a story for us.
If you got a channel, I'll write up a quick story, whatever. And so I actually ended up putting on my channel. I don't remember how many points it is, but I have as a point redemption. You can spend your points for me to tell a story about you while I'm streaming or in a channel.
Cool. I love that.
So I started doing that, and then I've really been looking into the whole Amazon thing about how I'm going to be able to try hopefully publish a book, because I really want to do the Marcus story. I really want to do that kids book that I talked to my buddy about doing, because he was hate rated and like his avatar is like this purple bunny, and he is gay, and he is very fruity and kind of weird. And I was like, dude, would you be okay if I used your character in my book? I'm like, I do kind of a kids book and stuff like that. And I talked to somebody who is a big artist in his community. I said, would you be willing to work with me? And he's like, well, we can't use his actual character because somebody else did it. So we can use his character, but we kind of need to change it up a little bit. He's like, so kind of put a different look on it. I said, okay. So they're like, all right, when you're ready and talk about it, let's do this. So I'm like, I'm still big about wanting to do this book. And like, like it's okay to be different. Like in my head, I already had it written about like, it's just a normal bunny. Yeah. And, the bunny's a bit different. And one day something happens to the bunny and his name is Amethyst Rabbit and he's purple. So I want to do it where something happens to the bunny where the bunny becomes purple and is different from all the rest of the rabbits. So the rabbits are kind of like, oh, like you're different. Like you're purple. Like you don't fit in with us anymore. And, show like it's okay to be different and like overcome that. I'm like, I think that would be an amazing kids book, to write. I'm like, will it be successful? I don't know.
Who cares? You wrote it. Absolutely.
My buddy's is like ecstatic about this. He's like, dude, please. He's like, that would be amazing to have like my avatar like in a book.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like totally 100%. So I've really been looking into what I need to do to be able to get like digitally published.
That's fantastic.
Dude,
I love it.
You're hoeing.
Because you got short-term and long-term goals, right?
Yeah.
And that is the key. Absolutely. You can't only focus on the right now or you'll work yourself to death. I truly believe in that. If you don't have like a big picture goal, you'll never get out of the day-to-day chaos that is life, right? But you have both. You have short-term goals and long-term goals. And your goals are so cool. I love people who push their natural or earned talent to the limits to see how far they can go. Because like you said, fuck it. I'm going to put it on Amazon. And if it doesn't go, it doesn't go. But you always had done it. No one can ever take that away from you. You always did it. So and that is
will be there for cool. My daughter when she gets older. Her grandkid, she's like, hey, great grandpa wrote a book when he was, my daddy. And like, here, let's check it out. And like, it's there.
That's so great, dude. That's so good. So, yay. So creative outlet sounds like a huge win.
Yeah. And then the two that I failed, unfortunately, like I said, test account. And this one technically is not my fault, okay?
Okay,
this
all right, let's hear it.
Should have been on your checklist.
Yeah, I know. I know what you're gonna say. That's all the time we got. That's all the time we got. We lost story. Yeah, so YouTube editing course. I just saw that on my list too, and I was like, oh shit, I had it to do.
Hey, I'll get you this course. I really think it would work for you. And then, my inbox has been empty, so
you check your spam? Did you check your mail? Did you check
everything?
Okay. Yeah, damn it. All right, so true. But hey, what do we say here? We don't focus on where we fucked up. We focus on the future. So we just scoot that little YouTube editing course down the road. We're gonna add it to the next list and call it good, brother. Okay. Storyteller, dude. How happy do you sound right now? Look at all of that accomplishment that you just got to shower me with. That's huge, man. You were so genuinely proud and happy. Of course, we don't get to see your face smiling, but I've just talked to a very proud streamer, and that makes me so happy. So good job, man.
Honestly,
good fucking job.
What, 3 weeks? Like, it's insane because, like, honestly,
amazing.
Like the other day when I hit that 130 people, I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm like, that's crazy. And then, like, I saw how many viewers were in there.
Yeah.
Because, like, I just happened to look because, like, I had to tap my screen to be able to go back to my profile and see if I was at the 130 mark.
Okay.
And I'm like, I was like 17 people. I'm like, that's the most I've ever had in here. I'm like, this is insane. And then I saw when I looked, I'm like, I went from 110 people and gained 20 people in the span of, I think, a 5 or 6 hour stream.
Wow.
I'm like, that's crazy.
Amazing. That's amazing. And what what was different? What if you had to say what was different? Was there anything different? What do you attribute that success to? There you go. That's the better question.
I think honestly, generally, for the first time in a long time when I was streaming, I generally was having fun and just enjoying the game and talking to chat and just not like down the dumps and like just being entertaining. Like, even though I was dying over and over, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, there's no way that this is entertaining. Dude, but you guys are all laughing, you're just having a hoot and chat, and I'm just like, I'm glad you guys are having fun, because I'm over here getting wrecked. Right. I'm like, you guys are just laughing hysterically, and I'm just like, I can't.
It wasn't like in a negative way. Nobody was saying like, oh, boo, you suck. And we just were... Here's my interpretation as the viewer. So to catch people up, the other day, Storyteller it was like one of his first or second, or it was a comeback stream, and he was killing it. He was sticking to his schedule, doing everything he's supposed to do, and it was awesome. Well, when I came in, came into Storyteller just being absolutely accosted by dinosaurs like you'd never seen in your life. No matter what this dude did, he killed one dinosaur, and then immediately after, like 5 would attack him, and there's nothing he could do. And the chat was just loving it. They were being super supportive. They were laughing. And the numbers were in the 20s when I was there, Story, just so you know. Yeah. And again, we look at numbers to know as an analytic the same way we look at miles traveled distance, right? It's simply a metric that we use to understand the highs and the lows. Well, when I came in, 25 people were happily watching Storyteller. And then throughout the course of like an hour, it fluctuated between like 25 and 20 for a good hour. Meaning, as the entertainer, Story, you just had people happy. You were genuinely being entertaining, and whatever you were doing was giving the people what they wanted. And that, I really feel, is such an important aspect. You go into streaming with a plan that you can enjoy, and the people will enjoy it with you. It's cool. It's really cool. Oh, man. So we brought it up naturally, but I was going to ask, so any big success stories you want to share, right? Like any good streams that just you walked away knowing, good day.
That stream, 100%.
Yeah.
100%
I love
it.
Stream. Oh, it was a good stream. Just the chat was so good. The content was so good. Because even after you switched games, you still were maintaining good numbers. You truly were maintaining good numbers. And I kind of breaking it down to its individual parts. I've said this before, but I say it again. One thing you do really well while you're streaming is you narrate. You're a good constant narrator. Hey, this is why I'm building it this way, or this is why I'm doing this. And I think part of that is a big reason for the retention, is I think people truly enjoy kind of hearing the thought process of what you're doing. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because like I look back like at YouTube and the people that I watch, and I'm like, I look at that and I'm like, why do I watch this? I'm like, why am I watching this anime? Why am I watching this movie? Why am I watching this entertainer? And I'm like, it's because either A, the story is good and it's keeping me entertained, or B, they're explaining what they're doing. And like, I'm like, I don't really do podcasts either. Like, and I don't do Twitch, but the people I do watch, like another big person that I think is kind of like a, person I kind of look up to and like follow is Bert Kreischer. I watch Two Bears, One Cave. Yeah. And they're so entertaining, and like it's like it's because they're entertaining, and he explains some of the things that he does, and I'm like, but that's why. I'm like, they're explaining certain things that they do and why they do it. I'm like, that keeps me there, and I'm like, wow, actually that I never thought of it that way. And it's like learning things. I'm like, compared to just watching people do things, I'm like, I don't understand why he's building this way. I don't. Yeah. I'm like, that's cool. How can I build like that? I'm like, well, you didn't explain how, so now I don't know what to do.
Well, you're giving substance. You're giving more than just, hey, look at me play this game that somebody else built. And there is something to be said about that. I'm not shitting on creators that are great video game players, but I'll tell you, that is way harder to break into in terms of a market than coming up with a unique and creative concept or twist that you can apply that kind of breaks the mold. Because I could never be good enough to, like, for video game shooters, for example. Okay, it's so much more than just getting 20 bombs. It's so much more than cranking 90s or building the most crazy, elaborate Minecraft things you've ever seen, right? The ones who are successful, if you watch them, this kind of goes back to find role models. As you watch these people, Dr. Disrespect isn't just slapping on a wig and acting goofy. There's extreme production value in what he does. His overlays are customized to the game. He has kind of set up skits that he can go to if the content or the game itself is lacking a little. Like, there's multiple levels of entertainment built in that these pros have that they utilize. And I don't remember necessarily what the point of all that was, but it's fun. That's my favorite part. Like, when I get to run these promos and do like my anti-vaping ad and all that stuff, man, it's so fun to watch people enjoy, what was actually going down. So excuse my side quest there.
No, that's fine. But it is true though, because even when you do your anti-vape thing, like the first time I saw it, I'm like, what in the hell am I watching? I'm like, this is the cheesiest thing I have ever seen. But every time I see it, I will sit here and watch it and get a chuckle just because of just how out of just weird it is. And I'm like, it's so entertaining to watch.
And that's the whole point, is I'm entertaining, right? Because that's what we are as streamers. As much, even if we're community based, even if we're chat based, all of it, essentially, I believe that if you are a streamer or an content creator, you need to see yourself as an entertainer. There's 100 different versions of entertainment, but that is what people are coming to you for. You're their TV. You're their radio. Could be playing a video game, but instead they're watching you. So if you had that mindset of like, oh, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be laughs and awesome and all the time, but I at least need to make sure that I'm doing something that's entertaining, like dying over and over again in Ark, but not getting frustrated, right? Or not cussing or rage quitting, because that would have killed your show, right? If someone's just in there in Ark dying over and over and you're getting zero reaction, how long do you think people are actually going to watch, right?
Not that long, unless you're an entertaining rager where you do stuff entertaining, where like you're going above and beyond.
Keyword though. Keyword entertainer, because you can rage entertainedly. That's a word today, right? So you can rage in a non-entertaining way, and it's like, oh, okay, man, it's just a game. Chill out. Or it's a rage like, oh man, he is so pissed, right? And that to me is the good version. You're making people laugh. You're not making people uncomfortable. Well, there's actually something to it. You can do it pretty much anything you want, as long as if the person doesn't get uncomfortable, they're probably going to see it as entertainment. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Ray Ray's in
Because-
the house. Says hello.
Yeah.
Oh, you're on it, Mr. Superman over here.
Oh yeah, always. My buddy has like a little side business. And I told him I would gladly promote, in my thing. And he's like, I thought about getting into streaming. He's like, how would you recommend it? I said, you need to treat it sort of like you're making a show or a movie, and you're also doing a business at the same time. I'm like,
Yep.
when you're out there trying to get people in, I'm like, you need to advertise. So, Twitch, whatever you want to use, you don't need to go across everything, but it helps. But maybe focus on one thing first, and then once you're kind of settled there, go to the next one. I'm like, and just going into communities, going to different streams, and just being present.
Yep.
I'm like, and raid. I'm like, even if you don't know the person, just raid them. Because even if you raid and you stay there for a little bit and you leave and you don't follow or anything like that, those people in those streams say, oh, he is a streamer. Maybe I might go check out his channel and see what he does. Like when I ended yesterday, I just some random girl. She didn't have a ton of viewers, but I went in there with a couple people. Yeah. And I went on Twitter and I said, hey, I got a raid from so-and-so, but they're not on Twitter, so I couldn't really, add them. But then I was like, and then we went and showed the love to so-and-so, like check them out as well. And later in the day, she came on and she didn't even have to. She liked it and she was like, hey, thanks again for that. She's like, I hope everything. I'm like, but that interaction, people see it. They get your name out there. People who even don't follow her, but follow somebody who's following her might see it. I'm like, so you grow. And I'm like, and that's what I've learned from the things. Like, I know you've seen it because I was like, I had one big company follow me, which I don't know why.
I saw that.
Do anything. But then I had the one gaming company that I kickstarted their game way back when. But like, I've never added them. I have never been on their thing. I've never mentioned them, nothing. And they just followed me. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, you are a like couple of 100,000 follower person. I'm like, and you're following me of all people.
That's crazy.
I'm like, that's crazy.
I go back to it, and I've said it before. You're genuine. Like when you reach out to somebody, you don't come across as if you're looking to get something. You don't reach out or do things nice hoping something good happens to you. I truly feel that you genuinely just do things because, oh, these people are nice, and I want to tell people that they're nice. And that comes through, man. I really think people understand and grasp what you're putting out there because you're just good at putting it out there. That's how I've always felt about you, at least. You just come across as a genuine dude.
Yeah, and I told my buddy, like, another good thing that really helps, and it's not necessarily, quote, be on success or anything, but I'm like, being able to generally just talk to people. I'm like, one of the things that I never realized I was good at until I started working at Lowe's and having to talk to just random customers, construction workers, bosses, calling companies. I was like, I am very good at talking to people. I'm like, and I am a very good salesman. I'm like, there's been times when people will come in and say like, oh, I need cement for this, and I look up information, and I may not be 100%.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, there have been times that I have sold things that I had no idea what the hell I was talking about, but I made sure at least what I was telling them was as accurate as the information I had, and made the product sound super good, so that way they would end up buying it. And I never had any complaints from anybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, but that's what it takes. Like, as long as you can generally talk to someone and make them think that like what you're telling them is genuine and honest, and you're not lying to them and stuff, that's all it takes.
It's true.
I'm like,
be genuine.
And I'm like, yeah.
People will think you're genuine. It's not rocket science, people.
No,
and that really goes straight into streaming. It's the same.
Yeah.
The most genuine streamers tend to have the best communities. You watch people talk to each other like they're real people. You watch the streamer talk to their chat like they're real people. And those are some of the most enjoyable streams to be in. Is whenever, like Dr. Chronic. Dr. Chronic.
Dr. Chronic.
Director Chronic. You know him, right?
I know.
The Star Wars. I've rated him a couple times. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got the mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a wonderful streamer. He is so community focused. He always takes the time to talk to the community before gaming. He talks to the community and because he's a bigger streamer, so he has pretty fast chat going. But he always makes the effort to show, hey, you guys, this Director Chronic is me, and I am Director Chronic, right? Like, I'm not here to lie to you. I'm not here to bullshit you. I just want to entertain you so that I can make a living and make people happy. And that is, you do that. You have a very genuine feel to you, right?
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's cool. So,
Yeah.
I dig it, brother. It's easy to talk. We've been going for 2 hours.
Yeah, it doesn't even feel like that.
I know.
I'm like, holy heck.
I know. I really appreciate it. But I also, you know me, I got to stay on track to a point. We're almost, so for your hours, okay? So 2 weeks ago, we had our first talk, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in 2 weeks, how many times did you stream? Knowing that your plan was to only stream every other week.
So that first week I streamed the days we did.
Yep.
And so far,
so like
I was
you,
on
the first
schedule,
week was 100%.
100%.
Oh, that's huge. Big deal.
And then
Good
this
job.
week,
Yeah. Yep.
I would say 100%, but obviously it's not because obviously what came up and now my friend coming over, so I won't be able to stream 2 of the days. But I mean, I streamed yesterday. I ended up streaming earlier than what I was actually scheduled because of the storm coming in.
That's all right.
Actually, today's Wednesday. Tuesday, I streamed as well. Even though I said that probably there might not be a stream because I was supposed to go get an X-ray of my foot, which didn't end up happening.
Okay.
So I technically streamed a bonus day.
Okay. That's good.
Didn't end up streaming today because obviously just being tired.
Well, you're here, aren't you?
The energy.
You're here.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm
but
not
what? Don't
hosting,
you butt me?
So technically yes, and technically
Thank
no.
you.
So
I'm nobody's butt. I am nobody's butt. But
and then tomorrow, depending if I get sleep, I'll probably stream.
Okay.
Friday, 100%. I know I will not be streaming. I'll be spending it with my friend who's going through some stuff.
Reflect your
Saturday,
schedule.
I probably will be streaming again as well. And then
there you
Sunday, depending on if I'm allowed to have the kid or not, then either I will stream a little bit or I won't at all. So we'll have to play it by ear from there.
That all sounds like a very reasonable and successful plan.
So this week, I'd say what? 75%, I'd say.
I mean, this week's not even over, because you better believe some portly older guy is probably going to be sending you a message, maybe trying to boost your energy up to see if you feel like streaming on the days you'd want to stream. And if that doesn't, if that does work, I'd say you have nothing to. You can't fail a test that you haven't taken yet. And tomorrow is still tomorrow. You don't know where your energy is going to be tomorrow. And I'm going to tell you that your energy probably will be good enough. And because that's a way better mindset to go forward than, I guarantee I'm not going to want to. Because I'd much rather you go,
I will.
There you go. And I'm going to bug you, because even with all the bad shit going on, we are enduring the bad and we are doing the best with the good. And if your energy is there, even if you stream for 1 hour, even if you only stream until something triggers you and you go, you know what, you guys, I'm just going to take off. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Much love. Every single person will be happy for it. They will be, hey, have a great one, Story. We love you. And then you still count that day as a victory, because you do as much as you can with the energy that you have.
And having a game too that I'm super excited. Like, I really got into Ark, and like I've been doing some work off screen. I got some more dinos, built the base a little bit. I'm super excited to be able to show it off. Like all day yesterday, just working late. I'm like, I can't wait to stream this again. I'm like, I got some new dinos to show off to people. I'm trying not to do too much, but I'm like, I'm blown by what I did. I'm super excited. And I'm like, I haven't been this excited in a while,
dude.
I'm like, so
see, and that's why we're gonna plan for a good outcome. And then if, for whatever reason, something happens that steals our energy tomorrow, we're going to forgive ourselves for it and then be excited about the next day. Because that's all you can do. And because it's all we can do, it's what we're going to do. Deal?
Yeah, do the best of what we have, I guess.
All right, exactly, because that's all you can do. God gave me inches. I'm going to use all of them, okay? So, dick jokes aside, this is kind of my breakdown of the overall, right, of today, kind of what we did last time. So, we got some long goals of get published. I always put the long goal first because it's the long goal, right? A lot of times when it comes with the long goal, there's way less planning, way less to-dos with it. So, in terms of getting published, give me 3... Well, okay, what technique? We'll do 3. Okay, so give me 3 tasks They can be anything. Hard, easy, whatever task that you know for a fact you can get accomplished in 30 days. So we're doing a 1 month, 3 challenge, 30-day, 3 challenge plan. And what it's going to be is for getting published, what are 3 things that will simply advance that goal's progress? Not get it finished, not get it done, simply make it more obtainable than it was 30 days sooner.
100% figure out what exactly I need to do to get published on there, because I just kind of glanced at it.
Okay.
So that is definitely number one.
So knowledge, obtain knowledge.
Yep.
Okay. What else?
Figure out which story I'm going to attempt to publish first.
That to me is the same of obtain knowledge. So think more creatively, right? What are some roadblocks that you think are inhibiting you? And I'm going to say it, inhibiting you from being worthy of being published. Is there any sort of like mental roadblocks that is stopping you from thinking it's possible?
No, the only mental roadblock I have right now is honestly figuring out what exactly I need to get published, and then 2, finding the time to actually sit down and write. Those are really the only 2 things right now that I really need to kind of get to where I need to be.
Easy. Well, good. Now we can think smaller. I just want to make sure that the big question was answered. So now that the big question is answered, I mean, I could give suggestions, but I usually like you guys to come up with stuff. But so obtain knowledge of the process is 1. 30 days, there's definitely a way. You watch one video, all of a sudden you're going to know 5 times more than you knew before. So I heard actually write. So I think a better thing for that's more obtainable is start to find where your free time is. Right? When I wake up in the morning, I realize that I could just sit on my phone while I'm waking up and I could just start typing. Right? And then all of a sudden you're like, man, I really do. Every morning I have like 30 minutes where I just could be writing because I'm just waking up or I'm drinking my coffee, whatever. Right? So start to get a understanding of your time. Right?
Yeah.
Because again, these are all things that'll take 5 minutes. Because the whole idea with the long goals is it's nothing that will take up any time that would be better suited for your short-term goals. Right?
Taking it in stride.
Yeah. And then, okay, so what was another thing you said that would give you forward progress? I love peach rings.
Other than just figuring out how to get published and writing, I don't really think there's really anything else stopping me, to be honest.
That's great. I mean, you don't need a lot of things.
No.
So, okay. So let's watch YouTube on getting published. There you go. That's easy. So I got obtain knowledge of the process, understand your free time, and watch a YouTube on getting published. That's a 30-day goal, right? Since getting published isn't like your number 1 priority right now, right? But it might turn into, that's the fun part. You might end up getting all caught up in the process, and before you know it, in 30 days you're published. And that's why we do this kind of stuff. All right? So I also got analyze your role models and break down their show. So it sounds like you kind of did that
already
on accident. Was it an intentional way? Like you say, oh, he goes for an hour, or when a troll comes in, this is what, I guess, how analytical was the breakdown?
I didn't really intentionally mean to break it down. It was just things that I've noticed.
Yeah. Okay.
That I kind of just picked up on, especially with Bert, because of the jokes he makes and stuff like that. And there's a couple times where he's like, "Oh, well, this was happening because of a joke I made. It kind of got carried away, so I did this instead to kind of deflect from that." So I was like, okay, so cool. So if something happens in my chat that's, inappropriate, or I need to get rid of somebody. What can I do
Beautiful.
to deflect the attention away from that to this? Or, God forbid, whatever happens. I'm like,
Yeah.
so, okay, it's something I need to figure out. I'm like, oh, then he's saying you should do this when you're opening a business or something to get attention. I'm like, okay, like, and it was just things that just like I picked up in my head that I didn't realize I was doing.
Yeah. And now you can go at it from from an intentional way. So the way I quantified that is find 3 things each, so 6 total, of things you like and don't like about those role models, right? So you just gave one for Bert, right? You saw he handled a certain way or how he handled a certain thing. So if you put those, right, I mean, I know you're not big on like taking notes, but if you can articulate them, put them on paper, and then after you find those things, apply them to you. Do I do any of these things I like? Do I do any of these things I don't like? And then from that understanding, you then gain the ability to adapt and become a better creator.
Yep.
Yeah. I wrote down costumes. I think I just loved it so much. I wrote down costumes.
Yeah.
Costumes. I love it.
I got a costume drawer.
This is my favorite one. And now listen, I could say this and not have it be gross because I could hear the people, oh, he's just doing it for growth. Bleh. I don't think people think that way. And Nim, he does this for something in a different way, and I'll talk about that after. But I think a wonderful growth tool that would not only work out for your content generation favor, you would have a backlog of things, of stories, but also from a growth perspective, I think this would be huge. I think a great thing that you could use for growing your stream is as you find streamers that you respect and admire and, become part of their communities, you write a short story about them and you just give it to them, right? You just, and it's do it from like a sign of respect. And I think people would be like, oh my gosh, you really wrote a story about me? Because like I was, when you made the Marcus story, are you kidding? Do you know how good that feels to have somebody, whatever you enough to, I assume respect, but respect you enough to like spend a lot of their time and come up with a story about you in like a flattering way? It's just one of the most polite gifts I've ever gotten. Because who would write a story about me? Right? So if you make these stories, share them with other creators and other creators' communities, that right there alone, I think, would give you so much like respectability and honestly like magnetism that will bring viewers to you. Like their favorite streamer's not on, but you better believe they remember the story that Storytellermerc wrote about him. So they're going to go say hi. Because that person rated you a couple months ago, they hit you with the follow, and then now all of a sudden they're showing up in your stream every time you're live.
Yeah, actually, now that you say that, I think I'm going to try something tomorrow differently than what I normally do with Arc.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man.
And see how it works. Because, like, now that you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Most people, if they do work off stream, like, they just simply say, like, oh, yeah, I did this off stream, I did this. I'm like, but you know what? Since I have dinosaurs, I'm going to spin a story on exactly how I got those dinosaurs, and it's not gonna be like, oh, I just went out and tamed them. I'm gonna come up with a whole backstory of how exactly I got them.
And then you have a new segment or whatever, just an idea. You have a new segment, stories, right? And then say content's dipped a little, say you need a break maybe from whatever you're doing. You can then, all right, y'all, it's time for stories. Give yourself a break, 5 minutes, whatever you want to do. You have so many options. And now you have a whole new form of content that your people can consume, and you're improving yourself all at the same time. It's awesome. Yeah. So like I said, I was a little proud of that one. When I had that idea, I wrote it down immediately. Yeah. So
you do that on Twitter too.
Isn't that great? Isn't that, and you always run the risk, of course, of somebody critiquing or somebody, but fuck them. That's okay. That's part of being an artist. That's part of being a writer. We take the insults and say fuck them, and then we, revel in the compliments. Yeah. And honestly, that was kind of my biggest takeaways, because the rest are, stick to the schedule. But you're already good there.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like there's still things that are stopping you from being out? I know the one big thing, but things in your control. Is there anything in your control that you feel like is getting in the way of you being a success, by your definition, successful streamer?
No, I feel like honestly it's just probably organization and sticking to my schedule.
And that's what we're doing.
I honestly told myself next month, because I can't afford it now, I want to get myself a tablet and I want to get obviously the astronaut helmet. But I was like, why do I want a tablet? I'm like, do I want a tablet just because I got my daughter one and I kind of enjoy it? I'm like, no. I'm like, if I had a tablet that's obviously a bigger screen that I can carry with me everywhere, I'm like, it'd be so much easier to write things down, have schedules in it compared to my phone. I'm like, be so much more organized. I don't have to worry about constantly buying, pens and paper and everything else. I'm like, I think it would greatly help me to write down my thoughts and just do everything.
It would.
I'm like, because I'm so bad at just writing things down or just wanting to sit down on the computer and actually sit down and write the story or do this and that, because I just want to game and relax. I'm like, to do that instead of writing.
Exactly. And I think by having that ability to constantly get your thoughts out, it will give you a lot of peace of mind to be able to enjoy gaming and sleeping. So that's where, if it's a tablet, I mean, I love notebooks personally. I have tons of notebooks. But it doesn't matter what it is. If it's chiseling it in stone, whatever's going to make you utilize it, that's the system you use. If it's a tablet, whatever, right? And a busy mind is a distracted mind. So the more shit you get out, man, it'll give you more peace. Because another great example is, say you receive a call, like, the kind of call I'm talking about. Instead of sitting there for an hour, 20 minutes, whatever, 2 days, instead of sitting there and just losing your mind in your head, just immediately fucking bitch. Like, even if, you put that down, if you're writing it all huge, even if it gives you even 1% of peace, it's worth doing. Right?
Absolutely. Because I guarantee if I had my tablet to be able to write, and I'm moping in my bed because I don't want to go downstairs and sit in front of the TV or computer or whatever, I guarantee you I would have been writing in my tablet. I would have been working on the Marcus story or the, children's book that I don't know what I'm going to title it. But
and sets yourself up for success, because you will not take care of yourself during the bad moments. You won't stand up and go grab a book. You won't stand up and get you. But if your medicine, the medicine being I'm going to write, if your medicine is right next to you, you're going to have a way better chance of winning against the depression than if it's not. Right? So finding what tools allow you to take back control of your life will lead you to success, man. And I want to see it. I want to see you succeed. I'm not going to stop until you do.
Yeah. Like that one wise person told me, give yourself the tools to set yourself up for success or something like that.
Yeah. Sounds like something I would say.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was because you got a bad memory.
Yeah. We don't drop names here except for Marcus's. So yeah, man, I talk so much, but I hope this was as good for you as it was for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, it got me out of funk. I went from being like, I'm not streaming tomorrow. I'm not, to like, you know what? I have an idea for tomorrow that you just gave me. I think it'll work. I'm excited. I want to try it. So now I'm happy and excited to actually go live tomorrow.
Good. And spend this time. So after we get off the phone, you're going to have adrenaline and happy and stuff. Use that time to ride the dip back into reality and create. Just be creative. You're a very creative person. And I want you to keep doing this energy. And if it gets you excited, post stuff in the Discord. If it gets you excited, post stuff on Twitter, right? It's good to be secretive because you want to do a big reveal. But say you start losing motivation because certain thoughts creep in. Fuck you, thoughts. I'm going to Discord. I know Marcus will say I'm sexy. I'll do it, man. I'll say it right to your face. So utilize the tools like we just talked about. And I would absolutely love to see you live tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cool?
Absolutely. I will catch you tomorrow live.
Oh, yeah, brother. And then, like I said, we got a couple to-dos, but ultimately, we got to keep doing this so we keep succeeding together. Cool. Right
All
on,
right,
Story.
sounds
I appreciate you, man. Is there anything else I could do for you today?
No, we're good.
Yeah?
Now the next masterminds that we probably would have a schedule in 2 weeks. I would have to let you know the Sunday before,
Yeah.
because obviously, with not knowing what's going on, I don't
Yeah.
want to say yes 100%.
No,
So
and
I
that's
figured
fine.
I will know that Sunday before, like, so that gives us at least 3-day headway to know
Yeah.
100%. So
And I might change the day of the mastermind so that it can be
I mean, that works
expanded.
too.
Because I'm really kind of liking this Wednesday. I don't know if you noticed, I changed it to meet the streamer.
yeah,
So what I want to kind of do is have a two-pronged thing. So say if Wednesdays are meet the streamer, and then possibly Thursdays are like mastermind. So it's not like they already know who we are. And then on the mastermind days, it's only about streaming stuff.
Jimmy. Yeah.
Right. And I love it though. This is good. This is the start of, this is what I was hoping 2022 would start as, right? And you are helping me make my dreams become a reality story. And I thank you for it.
Hey, you helped me, so return the favor.
Sweet. All right, brother. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure. I'm going to stream for a little bit still to see if anybody... So what I'm kind of thinking is I want to open up to the chat after we have these kind of talks. Because like you said, now, who's got some stuff? If,
Questions,
Fletch,
complaints.
we're here. Or if you just want to vent and talk and stuff. But yeah, man. Thank you so much, Story. I appreciate you, dude.
Go get some food and
Yeah,
watch
man.
you for a bit. I'll catch you
Yes,
later.
sir. Have a good one, Story. We'll play and talk soon.
Yeah.
Woo! How great is Storyteller, man? Genuine and awesome freaking thing. That was so great. Just it seems for people who spend a lot of time sharing their personal stuff, it doesn't seem as big of a deal to us because we're so used to sharing. We're so used to putting out our personal things to be judged and honestly ridiculed at sometimes by other people. And I think that's more normal because being vulnerable sucks. Like putting your stuff out there and running the risk of somebody kind of making a bad situation already worse is really hard. And it can be even more difficult than the initial trauma that you're dealing with, and it's why I'm so big on trying to normalize appropriate times to talk. There is certainly too many times where someone feels like they don't have the right to express their frustration, or they don't feel that it's fair for them to put their negative burdens on somebody who's already struggling, And as a man, I can speak to the fact that a lot of pride comes into that. As a man, we want to make sure that we are providing in a way that's not a burden to the people that we love and the people that we see around us. And I'm sure it most certainly can be the same for women, right? So when you take a proud man and you take away their ability to do good without also causing harm, we start to think that we're this force of evil, this force of wickedness. And the ironic part about that is the worse we feel, the more we try to do good. And then the more we try to do good, the more we feel like we're failing because we're never obtaining this impossible standard to reach. And what happens when we can never obtain this standard and we adopted this life of failure and this life of disappointment that's not necessarily backed up by anything other than the lies that we tell ourselves in our head, we just end up depressed and we end up broken. And once you're broken, it's not impossible, but it's very difficult to come back. It's really hard to have so much like self-hate and self-destruction towards towards what's going on and not feel like you've done something wrong. And I guess if there's nothing else that I could say, it's you gotta not believe, whoops, I just messed that up. You got to not believe those negative connotations that we tell ourselves, because it's just not true. We are loved simply by having people with us, right? Like, if Story sucked, would I have just spent 2 hours talking to him? If I sucked, would he have just spent 2 hours talking to me? Well, maybe. Maybe two people who suck end up being good friends for a reason. Only in Vegas, you know? But you don't need a lot of support to be successful. You just need good support. An individual's ability to succeed, I really truly believe, is only based off of their own limitations. No culture, no society, especially in the US, can ever truly negatively affect you so much that if you want it bad enough, you can't obtain it. There's just simply not any laws that overcome a true successful person's desires, not in the US. Because even if you fail, there's a million pathways to succeed. So you just keep going. Yo, what's up, Lion? So if you have that mindset of success and you truly want it, you're going to obtain it. I kind of forgot my point again on what I was saying before that. But you know, it's fine. How you doing, Lion? Speaking of big, important decisions, we got all kinds of people making crazy decisions. And I mean, I haven't responded, Lion. I started typing something and I had to move on. But I'm doing good. We just had a wonderful talk with Storytellermerc. Good, get that pen out of here anyway. Just had a wonderful talk, Storytellermerc, talking success, talking streaming. And now we're just kind of bringing it back into real life, you know? And I wish I remember what my initial point was, because I had a really good one going. Damn it. It was something. But yeah, I had so much fun doing that. I want to do this more often. It's just simply a matter of continuing to do it, really. You know? Because if you keep going, you'll reach that success. Now I'm just talking empty platitudes because I'm hot. So one thing that's crazy about me is I'm kind of like I rev up, I do really, really, really good, and then as soon as I can start to slow down, like my mind, my body, my soul, it all starts to kind of slow down. You know, when you gotta go pee and you're running towards the bathroom, and it seems like the closer you get to the bathroom, you're gonna piss your pants. Think about that, but the opposite, right? So the opposite. So as I get closer and closer to being done with like the social or the, you know, the obligation that I have. Oh yeah, I forgot I actually do have more obligations this afternoon. So much. So I have so much to do. I lost my point. But oh yeah, so as you know, so for me, as I have less to do, or I no longer have to present for anybody, I really start to slow down. And you guys think I forget stuff now. You should see me after stream. It's basically an entire endorphin dump when I get off of this thing. It's wild. It's wild, fun, crazy, and cool. Oh boy. And I just truly enjoy it. Yeah, so what did you guys think?